perfect setup in the back.
I know. We got Luna, we got everybody. Hi! Thanks for coming and joining our book club stream today. My name is Lindsey Stirling and I am your host for this evening. As many of you know, we are reading Daring Greatly. I feel like I'm learning so much from this book. But first let's just, ladies, let's catch up. We haven't gotten to talk in a few days on our Marco Polo. I've been kind of checked out because, as you can see, my backdrop is a little different today. I'm visiting my mom, so
Yay!
yes,
Yay!
I
love it.
Like, are you loving the decor with this doll over here?
I'll have to holding.
I have to show you this doll. Okay, you guys are all going to see him in sweatpants. Don't mind me.
Party on top, or business on top, party on the bottom.
Yes. Oh, that's not where I thought her head was, or her face was. What is happening?
My mom bought this year, like when I was like a kid, I remember, because it's like what she felt like as a mom.
Oh my gosh. Like, what exactly is on there?
She's got everything. Like a receipt. She has a soda drink. She's got a piece of thread. She's got a stuffed animal, a curl, a safety pin, a broken necklace. Like,
that is awesome.
Okay, when you said she bought it, I was like, oh, because I was expecting you to say she made it.
No,
like, she bought it.
She probably bought it like at a craft fair. So someone probably made this.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but like, I mean, anyways, she brings back memories, and I'm like, oh, my mom felt like this. But I guess I feel like this when I'm planning a tour or something. Like, you know, this is what my car looks like. So yeah. Anyways,
I love it so much.
Hilarious.
And the parasol lamp.
Yes, that's a classic from, isn't it nice coming home and when you go to your parents' house, you see all this stuff from like your childhood that you remember?
Yes.
Yeah, it's the best. It's
I know.
Like, home.
I know.
All the comforts, are things that are familiar to you, which is funny because I've been thinking a lot about this with my little thrift shop thing, because I can't believe, I mean, obviously the stuff I'm selling is worth it, but like stuff other people are selling, I'm like, I can't believe people are paying that much. For example, like kids' clothes, vintage kids' clothes that are like old because they're vintage. And so like, I don't know, back in the day, they would make kids' clothes out of not as comfy of fabrics and stuff, but people will spend so much money to get clothes that like,
you're like, they're old.
I don't even know. They're old, but then I'm scrolling through and I'm like, oh, I totally get it now. Like I saw a Barbie shirt that looked just like a Barbie shirt I had when I was a kid. And it like just, it gets you like, oh, memories. And so you want it. Or like, I can't even tell you.
Nostalgia.
Yes, it's what it is. It's good stuff. But I mean, it blows my mind.
Amazing. I know it's true. Another man's trash is another man's treasure, a wise proverb once said, named Macklemore.
You're the first one to say it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure.
That's a wise proverb, right? He probably got it from a wise proverb.
Wait, I saw that you got green donuts on St. Patrick's Day, right?
Your kids look so cute in their little St. Patty's outfits.
Oh, you're mute, or you're
we can't hear you again. You're muted?
You look good though.
Unplug your headphones
and put them back.
Caitlin, I feel like
it says your headphones. Sometimes your headphones aren't compatible with. You hear me now?
Yeah. Anyway.
Wait,
I think you're muted again. Try to get do you have a different pair of headphones?
Just take the headphones off. Unplug it.
Just get it out of there.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
It's just your headphones.
Oh, sorry. Okay, seriously, every single time, guys. Both times I've like gotten like my connection's gone out, Wi-Fi. So sorry.
It's all good.
You need Caitlin's husband and Lindsay's manager there.
Yeah.
They're like officially set up.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, I'd be lost if Lindsay Fishman wasn't like walking me through the process every time I set up my setup. I'm actually getting good at it. I did it by myself today, with her on Zoom. So I was like, proud.
Yay!
Wait, but Whitney, your kids did look so cute. And what all did you guys do for St. Patty's Day?
So we just had a little picnic, and I got them green Krispy Kreme donuts, and we got them St. Patty's Day jammies. I love matching jammies. Like, it's like my favorite thing. I mean, I always did it for Christmas, but I'm like, I'll do it for every holiday. Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you always get the cutest ones too. Like,
yes.
They're not just like, oh, they kind of are St. Patrick's Day. They're like so cute.
Yeah. Wait, Caitlin, I feel like you always do something for like holidays. Did you do anything?
Yeah, we just had just a St. Patrick's Day dinner with green foods, and it's kind of funny because Benson like made really nice, that's my husband, carne asada, because I wanted to have tacos, but the whole idea was I had to get green tortillas, and I used to get them from like a bakery that would make them green, and they would just be regular tortillas, but I had to buy the spinach or an herb ones. And so the carne asada was so good. And then you eat it with the spinach and herb and you're like, happy St. Patrick's Day. It's so good.
Oh, dang it.
But that's okay. It was really yummy. It just cracks me up because like you try so hard and you're like, really this? Yep.
Yeah.
It's not even.
Can I tell you guys, like, I cannot handle St. Patrick's Day, and I'll tell you why.
The pinching?
My son is so scared of the stinking leprechaun that for a week I have not slept because he's been so scared, and he comes into my room absolutely terrified of the leprechaun.
Oh my gosh.
I had to even show him, like, mommy bought you the Lucky Charms and mommy bought you the little gold coins. Well, I'm thinking, okay, so I like tell him, you know, like the secret, and in case our kids are listening, I won't say it out loud about the leprechaun. Well, he doesn't want to go to school because they set traps at school, and he's afraid if he goes to school, they've caught, and what if they have caught one? I'm like, I am going to lose my mother mind. But he's also the kid that is petrified that, like, he doesn't like Santa coming in our house for Christmas. We have to have Santa put the presents on the porch, and mom and dad have to bring him inside.
I like that he's like got stranger danger to the extreme. He's just like,
oh my gosh,
I'm not gonna mess around.
I'm sure it's my fault, like, ultimately. But like, I was telling him, I'm telling him, like, no, it's, you know, it's like telling him what's really going on, and he goes, I need more information. Like, he does not believe me. So
only your kids would say that, like, because you've taught them so well, and you've taught them so much about being self-aware, and like, you know, I need more information. Like, what child says that? How old is he now?
He's 7. I'm just so exhausted. Stupid leprechaun has ruined my week of sleep.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, heaven bless.
How See You Dead Deed says, I was afraid of the Hulk as a kid, and I feel like we all have those irrational fears where you're like, I know it's not a thing, but for some reason it's like big deal to you. Like, I was always scared that the ceiling, because we had that like asbestos, you know, like the popcorn ceiling in our old house growing up. And one time, because I had bunk beds and I could touch it, my mom's like, don't touch it because, you know, if it falls down, it's poisonous. So I thought that like I couldn't touch.
I was the same way, and we had a bunk bed, and I remember being so terrified of touching the popcorn ceiling because of the asbestos, the poison. I was just like, what is that stuff? And it's going to just dissolve my skin if I touch it.
Yes.
Oh, that's so funny.
Anyways.
Well, it's so funny too, because after like you, like these situations where you've explained the reasoning, like I've explained to my husband or my son, then I realized, like, you can tell a child over and over again that monsters aren't real, but that doesn't change the fact that they're still scared that there's a monster. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, I had to like coach myself through, because I was like I said, losing my mind over this. But
oh my goodness,
so funny.
So, way to go, leprechaun.
Okay. My sister was hilarious. I was with her on St. Patrick's Day, and we went to Target, and there was a whole family all dressed in green, and we just came around the corner, and she was like, quick. She's like, they're prepared. They're going to come pinch us. You just know they're in the store ready to pinch people because they're prepared. They're in their green. But I was like, think about nowadays. Like, I feel like, yeah, when we were kids, it was like you would pinch people. Think about that if that happened nowadays. It would be so inappropriate. I mean, even aside from COVID, it would just be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to just shout out some people because we have some new subscribers. So thanks. We got Neon_PC who has subscribed with Prime. Thank you so much for subscribing. We've also got Inusukinuki.
Well,
That's a
that
tough one.
person.
But thank you. And then also Gift Word and MCR Music 3, and then Red Jedi gifted, or I think, gave out 1 tier community sub gift. So thank you everyone for subscribing. I appreciate you. You're the best. Yes, it's always
and I'm clapping for you for trying to say these names. Come on, guys, make it easy.
I get so nervous every time I have to read, especially names, because, no one wants to butcher somebody's screen name.
It's so hard.
I don't want to do that.
Well, these are fake names, so don't take offense, guys. If she does.
Well, this one's not very hard to pronounce, but Jaguar55 said, "It's always good to visit your family. Tell your mom we all said hi." That was nice.
Oh, that is sweet. I will tell my mom. It's so nice to be here with her.
She bought stuff from my store this week, you guys, and I
Aw, I didn't
legit,
even see.
It popped up and I was like, oh, I know who this is. I felt so honored.
Oh,
Lindsay
Diane.
bought something too. I know.
I did.
She's the best.
I was so busy I didn't even get on and see this week.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Next
about
week.
it.
I'll go
There's
check.
always more.
There's
Oh,
always
man.
more.
Okay, so
Well.
I want to say, also a side note that I just recently learned is that if you have an Amazon Prime account, you get 1 free sub each month to subscribe, and you can use it to subscribe to my channel if you want. But I thought that was pretty cool because most people have an Amazon Prime, so if you subscribe, you get all the cute little emotes, and you get to chat with me on the subs only channel on Discord. So, okay, well, should we dive into said book? I am
Hey, real quick before you leave or you move on, can you just tell us how excited you were that Pink?
I was actually just about to say that because you know how I found out about it was Nick Shevchenko wrote an email in the book club, and he said, Lindsay, oh gosh, I hope you saw that Pink on Twitter responded to a post with your interview from Reverb, and she thanked anyways. And so I immediately went and checked. So anyways, thank you, Nick, for letting me know, because I was, well, you guys, anyone who knows me knows that I love Pink. And anyways, I mentioned how much I loved her in this article, and anyways, she saw it, and she retweeted it, responded. Just made my heart so happy. So yes, that made my day for sure. I wrote back, and now I'm like, it's I'm all giddy to see if she'll write back to me. Maybe she didn't text me back. We'll see. But and then I thought this comment from the emails was really sweet too. It was from Stace, and she said, I started out listening to the stream and I didn't know what to expect. I will say the discussion you're all having is definitely something that I needed to hear. Please pass on to your friends my thanks that what you are doing is good and reaching at least one person. And she was saying that, she knows that we must spend quite a bit of time reading the chapters and preparing. So thank you so much. So
nice.
So sweet. And I guess we'll dive in. This week's lesson, or not lesson, this week's chapter has so much in it. I was I feel very inadequate to try to talk. So we're just going to start at the top and we're just going to go through it. And please feel free to add any of your thoughts if I've skipped a section or something you love, because I'm sure there's stuff that I missed. It was a lot of pages. It was 60 pages of really meaty material.
Heavy stuff.
Heavy.
Yeah,
so
it's a lot.
If anyone felt it was really heavy and maybe, I don't know, triggering might be a good word, or just it overwhelmed you, then, I think a lot of people can relate to that. It's oh gosh, it makes you feel so overwhelmed with well, how do you combat it? And what do I do? Oh my gosh, I'm starting to see things. And I think that sometimes when we get uncomfortable, it's a sign that we're getting better, that we're realizing something, we're becoming aware, we're growing. And so that uncomfortable feeling can oftentimes be the beginning of growth. So just wanted to share that because I know I've definitely felt that sometimes reading this stuff.
You're not alone, because
you're not alone.
We literally, at least I'm pretty sure all of us have gone through that. When I read it the first time, I was like, guys, and I yeah, you guys all were like, yeah, that happened to me too.
Yeah. So I thought it was cool. And actually, a lot of the emails, almost all of them mentioned this thing. And they loved that she compared, let's see, shame resilience to defense against the dark arts. And everyone's like, I love that she included Harry Potter. And like the fact that she loves Harry Potter makes me like her even more. Because I think a lot of the people in my community, well, everyone loves Harry Potter, but especially my peeps.
I know. I even said we should have dressed up like Harry Potter characters.
I know. I do have a great Dobby the house elf costume.
You do.
Like at my disposal. It is in LA, but
You should have. That would have been hilarious.
It's amazing. I've used it several times. You would think you would never get a chance to use a Dobby the house elf costume. No, I've worn it in public several times. So why do you guys think that she related shame resilience to defense against the dark arts?
Shame is the dark arts. Like, it's just horrible, and we all experience. She talked about that. We all experience it. Men, women, everybody. It's equal. Like, everyone has to experience it.
Well, and
Yes.
it's real. It's there, and you have to learn to defend yourself against it because it's so real. Like you said, it's there. You have to have tactics. You have to learn counter spells, or you have to learn what you're going to do when that approaches you, and learn how to recognize it. And I think that's what they learned in defense against the dark arts.
Right. I love that you say it's not just like we're going to learn about darkness. It's like defense. It's like, okay, how can we combat this? Like, and that's what she does through this whole book. She gives you all these tools like spells, for my kind of nerdy analogies. I loved that. And also I thought it was really cool that she talked so much about like that secrecy is where shame thrives. And I thought about Harry Potter, how, Dumbledore tells Harry that you should call him by his name. Like you should call, like everyone's like, he who must not be named. They didn't want to name him because it was scary to them. And it's like shame thrives in secrecy the same way like Lord Voldemort thrived when people like almost pretended like he wasn't real. He was able to like get stronger, and that's why Harry called him by his name.
We're in chapter 3, guys.
Yes,
they're asking where we are.
Sorry, chapter 3, around page 62 is where we're at. That's where it talks about Harry Potter. And I know that David Gerida in the emails, he said that he loved the quote on page 61. Where it's 3 paragraphs down or 4 paragraphs down. Can someone read that? It's the one from Sirius Black.
Is this the one about the you're not a bad person?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can read it.
Okay, thank you.
It says, you're not a bad person. You're a very good person who bad things have happened to. Besides, the world isn't split into good people and Death Eaters. We've all got both light and dark inside us. What matters is the part we choose to act on. Those who really are.
That's who we really are.
Yeah.
That's who we really are. Sorry.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that? I love that story of it's like an old folklore about the boy that has 2 wolves inside of him.
Yeah.
And that's what I always think of when I
Totally.
read that. That's what I thought of, where it was like, which one is gonna win? Which wolf is gonna win? This darker, angrier wolf, or this lighter, more joyful, empathetic, kind wolf? And it was simply, which one are you gonna feed? Like, it's such a simple concept, but that's what that made me think of.
Yeah.
Which one are you gonna feed? Which one are you gonna let thrive?
And I think that it's so good to point out that like it doesn't make you a bad person just because you struggle with darkness. Like we all have that struggle. Like, and the more people start to be honest, you just realize it's not like you're not alone in that. And it really is. I think that's comforting to know that everybody's got like some kind of darkness that they deal with, and it doesn't make you a bad person. Doesn't make you weak.
There's a lot of.
I was just going to say, Anga Kuneko said, exactly, we are not our behavior or what has happened to us. Like, we can't let that stuff define us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and go ahead, Caitlin. Sorry.
No, that, when we're born with like natural urges and natural things that are like natural as humans, and we have to learn to counteract those for the better. And I don't know, I just think that it's important to know is that there are a lot of things that are, we need to fix, and they are natural.
Yeah. One of the things I loved what Whitney, who you just quoted, I can't remember who it was, but I love that the one thing that I think if everyone did and focused on, which was separating the person and who they are and their worth and their value from the behavior. Like if you separate those two things, it's so much easier to come with a different mindset. So for example, instead of saying that person is really obnoxious and annoying, you would say that was an obnoxious sound, or whatever they did. Like separating the person from the behavior is always a great way to humanize situations. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah. I've thought about that with mental illnesses. Like, don't define yourself like by your mental illness. Like, instead of saying like I'm schizophrenic, you can say I have schizophrenia, instead of defining yourself with the illness, or like you were saying, whatever it is.
Yeah.
No, I think that is such an important thing. And yeah, I love that. And, we've talked a lot about shame, and we've like thrown the word out there, but I don't think we've yet defined it. Like that's what this chapter is kind of all about, is really nailing down like what is it. And Janny, there was something you put in the Google document. Was that quote from you, like, or was that from the book? I couldn't find it in the book.
That it wakes you up.
Yeah.
Oh, so I honestly don't remember. It's been years and years since I had that written, but I want to say it was just something that I studied and came across. So do you want me to read it?
Yeah, can you read it? I thought it was really good.
Sure. So it says, it wakes you up in the morning. It puts you to bed at night. It whispers to you throughout the day, tracking every move we make. It lies to us as we sit in job interviews. Is this the right one, Lynn?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. It visits us in the bedroom and at the beach, in the medical exam room and at the therapist office. It lives in the mirror and in the camera. Its impact is huge, ranging from low self-esteem to addiction to not taking care of ourselves to thoughts of suicide. That's what shame, a good example of what shame is.
Yeah, it just kind of lets you see that it's everywhere. Like shame exists, in this place of self-judgment that's just so cruel when we're just cruel to ourselves. And if we go to page 68, it has the 1, 2, 3s of shame, and it has some like really good definitions. I like on page 69 there, she gives like a straight up definition of it. She says shame is the intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. And so maybe do you guys want to just look at the 1, 2, 3s of shame? And maybe Janny, can you talk about number 1?
Sure. So I think these are super crucial because it's like the very basics. If you understand this aspect of shame, it gives you a good grounding to combat it, to become shame resilient. So just putting that out there. So if you don't learn anything, these 3 things are awesome. Okay, so the first one, we all have it. And we've talked about this. Shame is universal and one of the most primitive human emotions we all experience. It's said that the only people who don't experience shame are those that lack the ability of empathy and human connection. So it basically says you either have shame or you're a sociopath. That's what she says.
Pretty direct.
Yep.
And sorry, I just want to shout out to Zane. I don't know what the rest of that was, but just sharing your struggle on here in the chat. And I just want you to know that you are lovable. You do deserve love. Sorry, I just was like, whoa, that was heavy. We need to say something. So
yeah. Oh gosh. Thank you, Caitlin, for pointing that out. I also like Sterling I Edit says, I hate shame in all caps.
Yes.
Don't we all?
Yes.
And shame, and then
like
what is Sterling I
quick and
1, 2, 3 says, I heard this the other day. It hit me hard. Shame is self-hatred at my expense.
Oh,
oh, that's good.
Yeah. So, okay, and I love, Janny, that you're pointing out that this is one of the most important things. Janny actually taught a whole course. You were like basically on this chapter. So hearing you say that, I'm like, okay, this is something we should really dive into. And then maybe number 2, Whitney or Caitlin, do you have any thoughts on number 2? And what is it?
Well, go ahead, Whit.
Well, it says we're all afraid to talk about shame. We're all afraid to talk about it. But go ahead, Caitlin, with your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna read it too. So
that's fine. It was a short bullet point for a reason. And then the last one is, kind of the result of that. Like, we all have shame, yet we are all afraid to talk about it. And then the less we talk about shame, the more control it has over us. Going back to my Voldemort analogy, or her Harry Potter analogy. I just stole it.
The thing that's so cool about so number 2, it's like, we're all afraid to talk about shame. Shame are things that involve the deepest vulnerabilities. They make us feel naked to talk about them. They're the things that we fear if we talk about, or if we talk about, people will think about us that they will no longer want to be connected or associated with us. So again, it's that fear of disconnection. Like, if I speak it, then they're not going to want to be connected to me. And then the third one, where it says the less you talk about it, the more power it has. So the opposite is the more you talk about it, the less power it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One lie that I feel like I've told myself in many times is that no one's ever gonna know, like no one will know, or, I'm gonna keep it to myself and it's only gonna hurt me. It's only gonna affect me. But it bleeds, anything that you're doing to disconnect or hold something inside will eventually cause some erosion within yourself, and it will bleed on to other people. And I think not talking about it that's part of the problem, is you're just, I don't know, people don't know why they're hurt sometimes.
Yeah, there's a phenomenal book if anybody wants.
She's the best at giving us book recommends.
Yes. But it's called The Body Keeps Score, and it's by just a phenomenal Vanderkolk. He's a researcher and a leading expert on trauma. But kind of what, like Caitlin said, when we don't talk about shame, we think like I'm the only one that's impacted by it, but it actually prevents us from being authentic, which prevents us from being vulnerable, which prevents us from providing connection. And all of those things surface, whether you like it or not, in one way, shape, or form. It can come out in addiction. It can come out in migraines. It can come out in, your body keeps score of your life. It's a map of who you are. And so it does impact more than just you. And guess what? Even if it only impacts just you, you are so worthy and deserve love and belonging, that even if you say it only impacts you, isn't that enough to want to dispel it?
I like, Prism Sterlingite says it can build up inside of us if we don't talk about it. That can actually be way more damaging than talking about it. And even a step further, because that's a really good point. Later on in this chapter, it says the act of not discussing a traumatic event or confiding in another person could be more damaging than the actual event. Whether it's embarrassment or it's like holding it in is sometimes what wounds you the most, because you leave it inside where it can like fester and get infected or whatever you want to think of it as. And then going along with what Janny was saying, says conversely, when people shared their stories and experiences, their physical health improved, their doctor visits decreased. And this was done through a research team. Like, they found that people were healthier when they didn't hold on to this damaging weight of shame. Like, it actually did show up in their bodies in a not only a negative way if they did, but in a positive way if they did, share. I thought that was so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what are, and if I don't know, I was just gonna ask you guys if you wanted to open up a little bit about what are some areas of your life that you feel shame in?
I can share. So one of the things that I used to do, I'm going to see if I can find it, in my class that I used to teach back in the day, which I should teach again. This has made me more interested. Let me see if I can find it. But I created this My son is knocking at the door. Go away! Get out of here. Okay, so what I used to do is I would create I created this like dark silhouette person, and then I would write all of these things about myself, like that made me. But then what I did is I went through those, and I'm sure we'll get to it, where we talked about the 12 categories of shame, and started to identify. Oh, here's my baby screaming at the door. But anyways, I went and I identified those areas that seemed a little bit more painful to me than other areas. So like, for example, a good one for me that is pretty apparent as my child is losing his brains behind us, is like motherhood. So like anytime I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm being identified as a bad or poor mom, just all these feelings of shame happen, and it's this overwhelming feeling. And so for me, what I've done is I've gone through those 12 categories and started to identify those areas in my life where I feel an intense pain, and it causes me to want to withdraw. That's how I know I'm experiencing shame in those moments.
I'm the same as you. I know my shame. Oh, we lost her. I know my shame trigger is happening when I start to withdraw as well. Like that's definitely when I start to just sink, and I feel it happening. I'm like, oh no, I'm spiraling. I feel it. And do you guys have anything you wanted to share about some of the areas where you feel shame?
Well,
You don't have to.
The very first one on there, appearance and body image.
This is on page 69, everybody.
Yes. Somebody just said this too, the way I look. Now I can't find who it was, but yeah, a lot of people on here are saying that as well. Appearance, I don't know, just it's so hard. And I think we talked about with drawing and growing up, it's like so sad to think about all the things I missed out on, like because of body image. Like just in middle school and high school, like I wouldn't go to things because I have to wear a swimming suit, or I'm gonna be the fattest one there, or whatever it was. It's just sad that I missed out on stuff because of my shame of how I looked and body image. It's just sad.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think sometimes what we give up in order to feed shame. That's been a big thing for me. It's like, what things did I miss out on life? What connections did I miss out on because I was trying to like feed the secrecy of shame and what I was afraid of, and like at what cost, and like, because I've thought that several times about like, shame was a big reason I had anorexia, and like what I almost ruined, and in that phase of my life did ruin in order to feed that shame was just crazy. Like why? And it's interesting that shame is the fear of disconnection. It's the thought that we won't be lovable if people saw us for who we really were, or this weak part of myself. It's a fear of disconnection, but yet it causes disconnection. Like the exact thing that you fear, why shame is created is the exact thing that shame actually causes. It's like such a mind trip and such an irony that as you run from it, you're actually creating it by running from the authenticity. I thought about maybe sharing, should we watch the Arena music video?
Yeah.
I thought it might be kind of fun now that we've talked a little bit about stepping into the arena, shame, vulnerability. And as we watch it, I want you to just think about what are some of the different ways that we like kind of see some of the stuff we've been reading show up in this video, because this video, I mean, the whole album of Brave Enough was inspired a lot by this book, but particularly this song and this music video. I wrote the song to sound like you were in the arena, and then I contacted Derek Huff and was like, look, I need you to teach me how to dance. So here we go. I'm gonna pull this right over here. I think it should be on the screen. Let me double check. Is it on the screen? Oh, it's there. Okay. So I'm gonna full screen this. Here we go.
Look at her. Such a pro.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh no, and we have an ad. Okay, sorry. I don't have the plus
Ad
program.
blocker.
Okay. Oh no, not saved. Okay, here we go.
Wait for it.
Can you hear the music or the sounds?
There we go.
Yes.
It's coming. My daughter, I showed her this the other day, and she was, that's the guy from Dancing with the Stars. I'm like, you've seen this a million times, but she's getting older now, so she's
Yes. That's
cute.
so funny.
Can they hear it? Because
They're saying it's not very high. Let me like see what I can do here. Sorry.
no sound.
You look good though.
Thank you.
Look at that technique.
That pointed toe arched back. That's right. They're still saying no sound. Hopefully it'll catch up.
A couple of people are saying that it's their
It's
favorite
really low.
one of your
Very
videos.
low.
PTA Sterling at 123. That's my all-time favorite of Lindsay's.
It is so
And-
good.
Can they hear us?
Probably.
We're probably being too loud over. That's why they can't hear it. They can.
Oh, it's quiet still.
Oh, so serious.
They can hear us.
I know. I take myself very seriously in this.
So good though.
I feel like you're always serious in your videos.
I know.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Oh, I'm hearing that the sound is low, maybe because there's a copyright issue on Twitch.
Oh.
So
Well,
So Lindsay, just
I'm gonna
just go get your violin, Lynn.
right, and I'll dance around by myself. Let me see. I'm
Or
trying
maybe
to.
you could talk about some of like the symbolism in the video and how it relates to
Yes.
That guy looks real angry. Throwing mean words at you.
There we go.
understand.
And then one person's like, I can hear it. I don't know what's wrong with you guys.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
Summer, yay! We just throw lettuce.
They real it. Someone, oh, Lindsay, it says mute your mic or your sound.
DMCA.
Maybe turn the music off.
Yeah, cute, Graham. Cute. Mother, daughter, right? Maybe? Ooh, sassy.
Lindsay, your mic, it says you're muted.
Okay. I'm sorry. I had to mute it while I was playing. And I was just expressing what a grandma I am, like trying to like use all this new. I'm not good with PCs. I'm just learning. Anyways, excuse
You're
me.
doing great, Lindsay.
We'll just pretend that the audio was on the whole time. Thank you for your patience, everyone. But everyone in the comments is like, Lindsay, your sound is gone. Thank you. Thanks for-
Can you hear her now? I can hear it.
I think
hear
it's
you,
there
but-
now.
Okay.
Can they hear me?
Someone tell us.
I think
Oh,
yes,
great.
they can hear
Okay,
me.
we're good. Okay.
All right. Yeah, it's like heaven forbid I try to mute anything ever. Okay. So does anyone have any thoughts on how you saw like some of the concepts in the book made real in said video?
Just
Are you
like
asking us or the
people
chat?
mistake-
Oh, asking you guys and the chat.
Okay.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
just the people in the stands. I think we talked about this a little bit on Marco Polo. Is like, you know, it's hard getting on here for this book club, or it's hard getting. Sometimes you might say something accidentally or mess up,
Yeah.
you know, and then you're just like, oh no. And we were talking about how that's the people in the stands, the critics. Like we can't like listen to them, and most of the people watching this or listening to us like are understanding, and so we can't let like the 1 out of 500 people who criticize us really get to us. You know, it's good to
Yeah.
have like good criticism, positive feedback, but we can't let what other people think really run our lives, because it's usually not that many people, you know.
And they're speaking from a point of just watching in, but they're not even daring enough to be in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So
I really like this comment from Analogo Kid 75. It says, as we step into the says, as we step into the arena of life, we go to battle seemingly with those around us. Oh gosh, it's scrolling up. Let me find it again. We go to battle seemingly with those around us.
As they glare down and point and laugh.
My mouse.
But when all is said and done, we are not
fighting
the hordes of others, but standing alone and seeing that we were only fighting ourselves all along. Ooh, profound.
Yes, I loved that, because that was actually there was a part of the video where all of a sudden, like, they looked up and the stands were empty, because, you know, it's like it starts, you know, everybody's like jeering at them and throwing things, and like, you know, they're heartbroken by that, but then, you know, they open their eyes and the stands were actually empty, and all they see is we actually had ourselves sitting in the stand, like glaring at us. And you realize that the only opinion that actually matters, like, and this is true, is the one you think of yourself. And the reason that is because the people in the stands, yeah, it hurts when they don't like you, only because you believe what they're saying, only because you care to put value to what they're saying. So like,
you give them power.
You give them the power. And so if you're standing in the stands and being hypercritical and being like, yeah, they're right, you know, or yeah, everybody is, you know, telling me this and they know what they're talking about, or I'm not good enough. Like all those thoughts that we have, we are actually our biggest enemy in that sense. So thank you I'm glad you saw that.
I also love that you did this outside in the dirt. You know, like it wasn't like, yeah, it's so raw and natural, like, and it's dirty in a lot of ways, you know, like you really have to get in there and in the dirt. You can't like experience vulnerability and just be like, you know, I'll come through this without getting any dirt on me or whatever, you know, like it's raw. It's something that you work. Yeah, it's dirty. It's not a clean process.
Yes. No, I think I didn't even think of that when I was making it. Maybe subconsciously I did. So that's kind of a cool thought, because yeah, it definitely was really dirty and gritty and messy. And you know, I think let's see. I also liked in the book basically what we were talking about a second ago. She says shame started as a 2-person experience, but then I learned how to do it all by myself. And I was like, that is so true. You know, those voices get put into your head originally by something, like an incident. Someone said something, you got your feelings hurt, you're embarrassed, like something happens, but then sometimes we spend a lifetime taking that experience and hurting ourselves with it over and over again. That's on us. That was me doing that. And I think it's really cool that shame doesn't have to be a one-way conversation when it's happening in your mind. And I don't know, does that make you guys think of anything, like the thought that shame doesn't have to be a one-way communication?
Well, you don't want it to be, because then it gains power over you.
Yeah.
And so you have to talk back to it. Like I said, like for me, the biggest thing is recognizing those areas in your life that you do experience shame. And sometimes, like for me, I think I've shared this with you guys. Anytime I've experienced a situation where the emotion feels really overwhelming, and I look at it and I'm like, my reaction seems a lot bigger than this situation. Almost every single time I have a moment like that, I can trace it back to shame. And then because I can trace it back to shame, I can say, what is it about this situation that's making me feel shame? And then as soon as I'm able to identify it, then I can talk back to it and say, I am, yes, I make mistakes, and yes, I struggle at X, Y, and Z, but I am not X, Y, and Z. I'm worthy of love and connection, and you have no place in my mind. And as soon as you can have that conversation back with shame, it still hurts and it still feels raw and it's not great, but it doesn't have power over you. It's kind of, I mean, I have like a ton of stories, but I think we're going to talk about that like in a bit. But yeah, as soon as you can talk back to it, it loses its power.
Yes.
It definitely loses it.
Well, because you start to realize that the things that are being said actually have no grounding. You know, there's no real foundation in a lot of those things. If you and I remember when I was really struggling with anorexia, my therapist told me, like, talk back to it. Like, when you hear those voices inside your mind that tell you, like, you are bad because you did this, talk back to it and talk reason, because your mind can't argue with something that is logical. It's like, yeah, that's actually true. Like, I do need to eat. I do need calories. Like, I know that physically I need, like, and I deserve that. I'm not a bad person because, you know, like all these things that your mind is telling you, you get the opportunity to have a dialogue and have a voice that you control, not just the automatic response that somehow has been created through experience and through, you know, your shame triggers. You have the ability to talk back to it, and it's true, it loses power when you start to talk reason with it and say, like, no, that's not true. Just because that happened, you know, then doesn't mean that's who I am today, or it doesn't mean that everyone's going to feel that way about me, or whatever, you know, whatever it is. I think that that's something.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very biological and physiological. Like when you are experiencing shame, it is in one part of your brain, in your emotional side of your brain. And so it feels so overwhelming and just so painful. But as soon as you recognize it and you process it, you can then take it, like you said, into your logic reason side of your brain and actually switch it. So then you can actually talk some sense into it. So it is an actual, not only is it feel that way, but it is that is how our body responds to it. And it is, you can switch it to that reason, that side of your brain. And it loses power when you do it. So it's not only like metaphorically, it's actually, that is actually what's happening.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think about, like, if you guys hear like a crazy statistic or hear a story about something that is like shocking, you know, your body's just like, wow, is that true or whatever? And but then you do research and you find out the truth and you figure out, like, okay, this is what really happened. And then it can make sense. And I feel like that's what happens with, you know, when we feel these things in our bodies, we have a gut reaction. But when we learn about ourselves, but then when we learn about ourselves and learn what the cause was, and we have that information, we can fight that gut or that fight or flight with the information. And so that's why it's so important to talk about it and really contemplate, like you said, Janny, about like why you're feeling these things, so that you have the information and the tools to come back and be like, hey, remember that story you told me? I know it's not true because I did the research, you know, or whatever.
I love Anavar 07 says, I like how she voices and restructures elsewhere by chatting pain, 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 pain. Like, I love that in the book. And it is such a simple concept, but it gives validation to how you're feeling. So like I said, just because you when you experience a shame trigger, it hurts and it sucks. And so oftentimes we just want to dismiss it and ignore it. And she talks about like different ways we move away, we blame, like, I'm sure we'll get to that. But by saying pain, 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 you're validating how you're feeling. And you're acknowledging your experience. So I love that too, Anavar. I thought that was so good. Like, just give acknowledgement. Like, yes, this hurts. Pain, 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 pain. And it starts to dispel. And then we take it from the emotional side of our brain to the reasonable side of our brain, where we can start working through it. And it doesn't feel so heavy and so painful and dark. I mean, it still hurts, but it's like you can switch it.
No, absolutely. And I like, she gives an example of like how shame talks to us and then how to talk back. She said, it laughs at you and says, I told you this was a mistake. I knew you weren't blank enough. Shame resilience is the ability to say, this hurts. So pain, 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 saying, acknowledging that, yeah, this hurts and I don't like this feeling. This is disappointing, maybe even devastating, but success and recognition and approval are not the values that drive me. My value is courage, and I was just courageous. You can move on, shame. So reminding your mind, like, what I actually value. It doesn't mean the pain will stop or that the embarrassment was going to go away immediately, but it's kind of taking it into your own voice and reason, rather than just like you said, this emotional part of yourself that doesn't know reason. Because a guy, like a neuroscientist, talked about how there's only one output, but there's two sides of your brain. There's the emotional side and there's the logical side. And whichever one is feeling the stronger, voice at the time is going to be going through the one output, which is your actions, what you're actually feeling and thinking. And so it's your job to make, if the emotional side is taking over, make the other voice louder so that that can be the output. Does that make sense? I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, totally. Self-awareness. I can't preach it enough.
It takes so much practice.
Yes.
Like it takes so much practice. I remember the first time I read this, I was like, okay, now I know, like, what I need to do. And yet I kept finding myself doing it over. I still find myself doing it over and over again. And it takes practice to recognize, and then it takes practice to go a step beyond that and recognize it and then change your actions. And then it takes, practice to do that, and then not even to do it in the first place. Like it's one of my therapists told me that she would practice watching a movie that was sad, and when it would get really emotional and she would get all crying stuff, she would try and stop herself and try and move it from the emotional part of her brain to the logical part of her brain, and like separate herself from it and be like, this is a movie, this isn't real, and just like use that as a practice kind of thing. And I was like, I'm not very good at that because I bawl my eyes out most of the time. But it's just a way to practice that.
Right.
I also like in the book how she says that it's shame resilience is a practice, like you're talking about. It takes a lot of work to create this resilience. And I liked how she talked about writing about our shame experiences. Like writing it out will help you process it and think about it more and practice it. So that was something for me that I felt I can like do tangibly to help me with it.
Yes.
Honestly, I do like constant. I mean, I'm constantly like, I have notebooks coming out my armpits because it's just constant. Like
that's gotta be uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's very uncomfortable. But it is so true, because when you're in such a heavy state of shame, it's almost like an instinct for me to like go reach for a pen and paper, because I don't like that feeling. It's so uncomfortable and it feels so crappy. And the thing about shame is that we're growing and we're changing all the time. So what made me feel shame when I was in my 20s is different than what makes me feel shame in my 30s, or what made me feel shame last year is different from today. So it's this constant relearning who I am always, and we're always relearning who we are in order to identify those areas that really hurt. And then we start to master certain things, and then guess what? New ones pop up that we're like, now I feel shame in this area. You know what I mean? So it is constant. But the thing that's so beautiful about it is that as you practice it with yourself, you practice it so much more with everyone else around you, because you're so much more aware of it, and it's so much easier to do for other people than it is to do for yourself. So you catch yourself. Like a really simple situation today is, my son was pushing my baby in the stroller, and he was going too fast, and he tipped the stroller because it had like 1 million book bags on it when we were coming home from school. And I instantly was like, Thomas, like yelled his name. And you just saw this feeling of shame come on him, and he just like took off and ran. And so it was like an instant for me. I recognized, this is a shame trigger for him. He hurt his little brother. He feels like he's bad, right? Shame is I am bad. I did something that makes me not worthy of love and belonging. So instantly, as I saw that face on him, I was able to run in. And I don't do this all the time. I make mistakes with this all the time with tons of people, but it just so happened that I was more self-aware today. I ran, and instead of even like talking to him about the situation, I just cuddled him and just grabbed him and held him. And I just said, you are so loved. I love you so much. Your brother loves you so much. We all make mistakes. It's okay. So just being able to recognize it in ourselves makes it so much easier to recognize it when other people are experiencing it, and we can help them to spell it too.
Yeah.
That was long.
I love
Sorry.
that. That was beautiful. And I'm curious, do you guys use mantras ever? Like mantras that, because sometimes when you're having this moment of like, when you're, because someone in here, I think it was Yeu, said, this is really hard and I fail most of the time. My emotions are too strong. And I think most of us can relate to that. Sometimes our emotions are so strong and the shame is so powerful. So sometimes it's a good idea to have go-to, like, especially if you're learning your shame triggers, you know what they are, having go-to mantras that you can say. That way you don't have to like struggle to think of it. It's like, you've got it ready to go. Like, do you guys ever use that? I definitely do.
I need to more. Like, I need to have more. One of the ones I usually just say is like, I am enough. Like, it's okay. I'm enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely need some more in my mind to help me.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about going back real quick to the writing stuff down. One thing that hit me as I was reading is sometimes we're not at a place with something we feel shame about to talk to someone about. Like, face to face, and writing it down is a really good first step for somebody who, needs to address it, but isn't in a place where they can talk to someone. Start there, write it down and put it down on paper. And I think that is a good first step to help you move towards being able to talk to somebody about it.
Mm-hmm. So true.
There have been times too when I'm like, this isn't that big of a deal. I'm not really struggling that much with this. Like, it's like almost I feel like I got this. But if I start to write it down, it also makes me aware, wow, there's a lot coming out. Like, oh my gosh, I've been just like trying to like hide from this. And sometimes because it is using a different part of the brain, it's like kinesthetic. You're using your hands, you're physically manifesting something rather than just letting it spool up here. And so different kinds of things will come out sometimes when you write it that you weren't even quite aware of. Like, I've definitely had that happen multiple times where I'm like, wow, there's a lot to unpack here and I didn't realize it.
And just writing like where you're not inhibited, like, can be really scary too, where it's just like, I actually give myself permission. This is kind of embarrassing, but I always give myself permission, like, no one's gonna read this, just write whatever you feel. Or like I give myself like something so dumb in the head, and then I just like, and it is so true. Like, the truth comes out if you let it, like it, and then you're like, oh wow, that really did impact me or affect me more than I probably recognized or realized.
Right. And I thought to myself, I'm never letting anyone read my journals. Like, my parents always used to say like, yeah, you should write in your journal for your posterity and for history. And I'm like, no, my journal, like, I feel like I lead a very happy life, but my journal would make one think, because I don't write about the happy things, sadly, but it's my place to like express anything. And so like, people would think I just have a worse life if they only read my journal.
I literally have glued pages together just because like I knew they were there and I was like, no one's ever getting in here. I could have thrown it away, but for some reason, but
someone might dig it out of the trash.
Toman 89 talks, I hope we get to this, but talked about what it was like being taught that men shouldn't feel shame and all stuff. And there's a whole chapter or a huge section on that, just so you know, if we don't get to it. Men, it's just as bad, just as real.
We all experience it, just it's a little bit different in the ways we experience it. Somebody mentioned in here, I wish I knew what things make me feel shame. And I think this is a huge, I don't know, Lindsay, are we going there at some point? I don't know.
Let's go there now.
Okay. I mean, this, like I said, in Brene Brown's book, she talks about the 12 categories of shame. And I think this is a really good place to start.
Should we just read through those?
Yeah, let's read through them. I need to.
It's on page 69.
Yes, and there are shame categories for men, and then there are shame categories for women. So this one is on page 69 are the shame categories for women, and I can't remember.
I'll find the men one. You can read that one.
Okay, yeah,
I think it's the next page, 70.
Oh, is it?
Mm-hmm. Right? Isn't it?
Nope.
Nope,
No.
sorry, that's examples.
Anyways, I know that I have them written down if they're not in this chapter and they might just be the same actually. Now that I think about it, I can't remember.
Oh
I
yeah,
think-
there's not.
I think they're the same, they just manifest differently.
Differently.
Yes,
I think that
yes.
is what it is. Yeah. So, anyways.
Does
So
someone
they
want to
are.
read it? Yeah, go for it, Caitlin.
The 12 shame categories are appearance and body image. I'll raise my hand. Money and work. I'm just kidding. Motherhood/fatherhood. Oh yeah, this is both of them. Family, parenting, mental and physical health, addiction, sex, aging, religion, surviving trauma, and being stereotyped or labeled.
So you see like this list and it's very broad, right? These are very broad categories. So like I said, one of the very first things when I was trying to figure out figure out my shame is the first thing is I started to ask myself, I had these questions. You guys, I know I'm pretty obnoxious, but
So obnoxious, Janny.
I would
You
look
are
at
not
them.
obnoxious. You may do obnoxious behavior.
Oh,
There we go. Okay, so there are actual like questions that you can ask yourself that help, but it's like, so like I said, I had a silhouette of a woman and I wrote all these things that I thought made me. And then I started to look at those 12 categories, and within those 12 categories, what were the things that if somebody identified me with, that would make me feel shame, right? Like that I would have what is called like a shame trigger. So a good example would be like, I'm trying to find the actual questions because they're so helpful. And of course, I wasn't planning on.
Are they in the book or the ones you made?
I don't remember. Okay, so here, this is through. So I don't know if some of you know, but Brene Brown also has a connections curriculum, which is a 12-section psychoeducational curriculum. So it's a really phenomenal curriculum that I was able to experience and go through. But anyway, so recognizing shame. So the first thing is it says, I physically feel shame in or on my. So how do you physically feel it? So when you're experiencing it, what does it feel like? What are your symptoms? So like my shame symptoms include, so that for me could be like, I almost get numb brain. I feel like I want to hide in my closet, that I don't want anyone to ever see me. I retract. I know I'm in shame when I feel, and then if I could taste shame, it would taste like. If I could smell shame, it would smell like. If I touch shame, it would feel like. So I filled that out. And then what I did at that point is, like I said, anytime I was experiencing something in my day-to-day life, that when it happened, I felt this overwhelming emotion that was bigger than the experience. I was able to recognize this is more than likely a shame trigger. And I would take note of it. Like a really simple example, and this is like such a dumb example, but one time I was at a movie theater and it was like a premiere and they gave out free items. And I think I shared this with Lindsay, I think at one point with you. Anyways, one of the free items they gave out was like, they were chucking and there was like a Snoopy dog that they chucked. And I was by myself. I think I was with, I can't remember if I was by myself or with somebody, but I was thinking, oh, I'm going to get that little stuffed animal dog and I'm going to give it to my child at home, right? So anyways, it fell on the floor by me and a woman came, like we both kind of went towards it and I went to pick it up and she grabbed it out of my hands and I felt like this immense trigger, okay? And what I realized after having this experience is I was embarrassed that not even embarrassed, I felt shame that I was going to grab this stuffed animal because I felt like she probably thought I was a very selfish person and that I was only in it for myself and I should have just backed off and let her have it. So I had this intense feeling When in my mind, though, I was thinking it was going to be for my child, but she probably thinks I'm a total selfish person. And it was this overwhelming feeling of shame. And so I recognized I was feeling it and immediately said, Jenny, you're not a selfish person. You're actually a very kind person and you care about what other people feel and think. And so I was able to dissociate myself with, she probably wasn't even thinking that, right? She was probably just in the moment, in the heat of it, but it was like this silly example. So for me, it's like taking note of those emotional experiences, but also I think something to add is you have to understand the difference between embarrassment, humiliation, those things before you start to be able to identify what your shame triggers are. So I don't know if you want to talk about this.
Yes, we definitely want to talk about those. And I love that story, but because I like that it was just a simple, it wasn't like a huge traumatic thing that happened to you. It's like shame happens sometimes in the most simple ways. And a lot of times it's not even in anyone else's mind. Like they're not thinking it. They're not even projecting that onto you. It's like a lot of, like maybe she was, but a lot of times when I've had some really big shame triggers, it's simple moments and no one else was thinking it except me. And I spiraled in my mind. And for me, it's a big, like I notice that it's a shame trigger or that I have shame in an area when my reaction is just way bigger than what it should be. And I'm just like, wait, why did I feel so small in that moment? Why did I feel so ashamed? Like, you know, it like the moment didn't call for that reaction. And that's when you're like, let's dig into that. Let's write about it. Let's see why I'm feeling like this. Like, oh, this really does bother me. Yeah, let's talk about, well, do we want to talk about on 75 or let's see how we do time? Maybe actually, okay, I think we've talked about all of the things on 75 actually. It's like bullet points about like how to combat shame, but we've talked about all of it. So, I think maybe we will talk next about, you know, the differences like Jenny just alluded to between guilt, embarrassment, and humiliation. But before we do that, I say we take a little break just to chat because I think let's just all like wiggle a little bit because we've been chatting for a really long time. I know I just need to wiggle. Why is no one else wiggling? Oh, it feels good. It feels like
You're
so
back.
good.
Jenny.
There we go. Oh, sometimes I do just
Oh
need
my
to
gosh.
like wiggle. Oh, okay. Also, I want to shout out some people on the chat. Thank you guys all for your comments so much. Because it's really cool to just see what's standing out to you. I love reading all your emails. Okay, so I just want to call out a couple people. I think I might have. Okay, Talsma32 subscribed. Thank you so much. Axius E. Thoras. You know who you are. You subscribed with Prime. Thank you so much. And Analog Kid 75 gave out a subscription. So thank you for the sub gifts. Thanks. I think that's so sweet when people do sub gifts. Like that's just, it makes me so happy to see that.
Oh my gosh.
But someone says Offbeat Bryce says I absolutely love this book club. I do too. Thank you so much, Offbeat Bryce. And this is amazing, says Spectacular Sterlingite. And then Lizeth has a dancing emoji. Oh, that's probably you wiggling. Wiggle time. I thought it'd be fun. Do you guys want to share like a fun college story? I don't know. I don't have one in mind. I thought it'd be fun to just maybe talk about a memory from when we were all in college. Because I loved last time when Caitlin talked about like the mission story with the picture. That was so funny. So yeah, is there what are some of your guys, maybe Janny or Whitney? Okay, Whitney.
One just totally popped into my mind because like it is such a good memory. I've talked on here a little bit about how I did withdraw a lot in college. You guys know this. I was kind of like
We were fighting for her to stick around
to the
us.
parties and
We
all
would
that
sometimes
stuff.
try to drag you out. We'd be like,
Yeah. And you guys were the best. And so this is like one of my most memorable birthdays. Okay. So Lindsay threw a surprise birthday for me with like all of the guys in where we live, the like complex, and they like sang and danced for me, and I was like so surprised.
Was this our black and white party?
Yeah, it was the black
yeah,
and white party, and then we all wore black and white, and we just like danced forever and like, took pictures, and I felt so special. Like it was such a fun memory for me. That one just like totally popped right into my mind right when you said college. Like it's one of my favorite college.
You know what I think of it and Lynn's is when we did that auction and we auctioned off a dinner and a dance.
Oh, it's dinner and a show. For everybody, it was a charity auction, and so every apartment in the complex had to come to the charity auction with something. And so we're like, well, and
what can we do?
Yeah, we're like, what can we possibly do? And we're like, well, we can make dinner, but we heard that like a lot of girl apartments were making dinner, and so basically people could bid on your thing. And so we were like, well, we have to make our special, so we made it dinner and a show.
And we like danced. It's like so embarrassing.
All I Want for Christmas Is You.
We did a dance to All I Want for Christmas Is You as we served them. So we like came out and we like served them, and then it turned into like a little dance, and it was like awful. And I think I played my violin, and like Marissa played the piano for them.
I think we were like the highest bidding charity thing. I'm pretty sure.
We were the highest bidding dinner for sure.
And that's when our other roommate, Erin, was told that we were the cool girls in the apartment.
Oh my gosh, one of our roommates was just so funny. I can't even describe Erin except for she has
we should have her as a guest.
We should. Erin's hilarious because she has a very blonde, for lack of a better word, even though we're all blonde.
Brilliant.
But brilliant. She is so smart. Straight A's at BYU.
Like psycho, like biochemistry physicist, brilliant.
But when you talk to her, sometimes you're just like, what's going on in there? But she comes back to her apartment. She's like, ladies, I was having a conversation with the apartment next door, and I found out that we're the cool girls.
We did not consider ourselves.
We were like, we're awkward and weird, and we do dinner shows with a dance. And anyways, it was just so funny. She's like, nope, they said it. They said, you're the cool girls. So
you're the cool
girls. We're like, oh my gosh.
So funny.
I still think she
Oh my gosh.
It's funny.
Someone says rain tree cool.
Raintree cool though. Oh, yep. Boy named Kelly knows. We did live at Raintree when I lived with me, Whitney, and Caitlin lived at Raintree. And then Janny, and Whitney lived at the Colony at a different year. I will say, Whitney, your story, that was so cute. I remember the guys, they learned to dance and everything. They didn't just sing to her. They learned to dance. Like I taught them.
What did we dance to?
It was Michael Bublé something, because I know you love Michael
Bublé.
And
then we did the roses.
And they each had a rose that they like pulled out at the end. It was the cutest thing.
Gave her a red rose. I forgot about that.
So cute. I couldn't believe it. Lindsay, you you're the best. You put so much work into that. And I was like, oh my gosh.
I got them all top hats, and I think at the dollar store I could only find green ones. There were only green, like St. Patrick's Day themed.
We spray painted them, right?
Yes, Janny and I spray painted them behind the apartment black so that they looked all dapper with their black. Oh my gosh! But we didn't.
We should put next week. We should show pictures from that.
Okay, next week we're gonna.
See if I can find one.
Oh my gosh! If you find one, that was.
Have you
so
guys?
Cute.
Anyone else had a successful surprise birthday party happen to them?
Yes.
No,
Really? You have? I had one. I've never had a surprise birthday party.
It was so funny. I had actually just been through a breakup, and after a breakup, you just are like, do I even have any friends? Anyways, that's how I feel almost, because you spend so much time with that person, and I was like, I don't even want to celebrate my birthday. And anyways, a friend took me out to dinner, and then when I got back, they had prepared a surprise party for me. So sweet. Nice. Yeah, best roommates.
Genuinely surprised. I feel like
yes,
doesn't happen very often.
Right? The genuine surprise. Oh, there's the picture. So cute. Look at us little babies. Oh my gosh. With all of our red roses. Oh.
Hey, this is funny, but Lindsay, you did another surprise for me on tour. Surprise birthday. Like, you were like my girl. You did all the fun.
The birthday queen.
My birthday, I had a birthday on tour, and like after we finished the show, I was so tired, and I was like, I put my pajamas on and she had this surprise planned birthday party and everything. And she was like filming it. I was in my pajamas. Like I was legit totally
You were like
surprised.
checked out. You were like, I just want to go in my bunk. And I'm like, no, don't go in your bunk. Like, just come here real quick.
Anyway, that was awesome.
So
Oh my,
good.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys for that brief intermission of the heaviness. I thought we needed a little break. So thanks everybody for still sticking around. I think we'll now go into a very important part, which I'm excited. And I asked each one of you to talk about one of these. So first off, you know, we're, like I said, we're going to be talking about the difference between shame, guilt, embarrassment, and humiliation. So Whitney, can you talk about humiliation?
Yeah, so in the book, she says humiliation feels bad but makes us angry because it is something someone does to us. When we feel humiliated, we feel that we don't deserve the experience. So then it goes on shame versus humiliation, the difference. When we feel shame, we tend to feel that we deserve our shame. We tend to feel we deserve that. So humiliation is something we feel we don't deserve. If we react to something by saying we don't deserve it, then we are feeling humiliation. Shame is more dangerous than humiliation. I'm having a hard time with that word.
Humiliation is a big one. Wait, what page are you on? I'm like, I didn't write it down. I can't find it.
I know that was like in a other quote, but I'm on page 73 where it talks about humiliation.
Oh, okay, 73. I was way off. Okay, awesome.
But I was trying to like kind of think of an example, and something happened this last week actually that you guys tell me if this is a good example. We were actually I saw Caitlin this last week, but we were on our way driving. We were kind of in a hurry because I was meeting Caitlin and then we were going to my family's for dinner. And we needed to get cash. For birthday presents, I had totally spaced getting birthday presents. So I'm like, I'll give them cash. They'll love that. It was a family birthday thing. And so we stopped at the gas station to exchange a $100 bill for 20s because we needed cash back and I lost the debit card, so we couldn't go to the ATM. Anyway, and so Matt was driving. We were all in the car. He pulled up. He ran in for literally like less than a minute. He went right to the register, got cash back. And as he was walking out the door, a police officer stopped him and was talking to him in there. I was like, oh, great. And the police officer was like, is that your car in the handicap spot? So he got a ticket for parking in the handicap spot. But I was in the car. We were all in the car. The car was running. It was literally like less than a minute. There were other handicap spots available, and he got a ticket. And so it was just like, I think that was a good example more of humiliation for him because it was like we kind of had the cop to blame. Like he was in the wrong, obviously, because he parked in the handicap spot. But it was kind of like we could blame the cop and it was just like, oh, whatever, this is so dumb. Like, I guess if it would be more shameful, it would be like Matt being like, I am the worst. I can't believe I did this. I suck. Is that a good example?
Yeah.
Tell me. I mean, I was trying
and he wouldn't express it. It would like fester inside of him. So it wouldn't be like him coming to you. He'd be like, I'm a horrible human. Like, and let it sit and fester inside of him where it would be speaking to him.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of an example, but it is kind of hard to recognize the difference, I think, between some of these.
I think you brought up the perfect point though, that humiliation, you blame someone else for it, or you don't feel like you deserve what you receive.
Yes.
And so it's not like, the bad thing that happened to you, you're not owning it as like part of you. It's like, no, that I didn't deserve that. And like, that was awful. And I wish it hadn't happened, but like, it was because of that. It was because of them, not because of who I am.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Not because of who you are. Like he totally made a mistake. Like he owned it, but it wasn't like because of who he is.
Yes.
He's not a bad person because he did that.
Yes. Perfect. And then Caitlin, can you talk about embarrassment? And like, I'm trying to let people keep up with us. Where is
74.
74? Okay.
Yeah, that second paragraph or first full paragraph. Embarrassment is the least serious of the four emotions. It's normally fleeting and can eventually be funny. The hallmark of embarrassment is when we do something embarrassing, we don't feel alone. We know other folks have done the same thing. Like a blush, it will pass rather than define us. Like when I was in high school and I ran straight into a glass sliding door in front of everybody. And I was like so embarrassed at the moment. I had to like go in the other room and be like, okay, this does not define me. It's okay. I did it. And of course it did define me for a while. Yeah, like the old lady that did it after me. There was an old lady.
Oh,
And they had some clean windows.
Yeah, my lip gloss was smeared. You could see it like, I hit it so hard. But they put a sticker on it after that, old lady.
Thankfully to you,
So-
no one else had to go through that experience. Well, you and the old lady.
Yeah, yes. But see, we can laugh about it because it was, a fleeting
And it's
thing.
interesting too, because like you can see how some experiences for some people would be shaming and for other people it would be embarrassment, humiliation, or guilt. So it's so interesting how each experience can, like, what might be humiliating for you is shaming for another and vice versa. It's so interesting.
Well, and also
Yeah.
I think a big is if it's fleeting. Like if it happened and then you move on. Like some of the things that have become shame for me, they could have been just really embarrassing or humiliating, but I owned them. I let them define me and I kept them with me, and that's why it was shame when it could have just been an embarrassing or humiliating experience, but I held on to it. And I just think that Whit or Caitlin, you said it doesn't define you. I think that's the biggest thing, that like what happened, like I'm not forever going to be the klutzy girl that runs into doorways. Like I'm a klutz, like, or I'm a ditz, like whatever it is. That it was a moment. It was a moment that you experienced, not who you are.
But I think about, like, I don't know, in high school or middle school or things like when you do stuff like that, for example, in front of the school or things like that, you feel like this is going to define your entire life. And it might be something that people keep bringing back up and stuff, but like that has nothing to do with who you are as a person. And it's when you build up your shame resilience, that will give you the courage to be like, yeah, I did that, but it's not who I am. It's not going to define me. Even if you think that, or all the popular kids or whatever, this is not going to change my value or change who I'm going to be in the future. I'm not going to be defined by this forever.
Yeah.
And I think more kids, like in middle school and high school, they need lessons like this because it is for them like the worst thing at in their life right now. Whereas us as adults, we can laugh that stuff off now. Like we've gotten that resilience by growing up, but I feel like kids need to read this book too.
Totally.
Want resilience more. Like it's okay. Like but it is hard when you're young. Like
yeah, it is okay to feel that way. Like to feel that it is huge, because it is huge in a lot of ways for you. But it's not eternal.
It's like my daughter every day. It's so sad. She'll like come home and tell me that she was picked last for soccer, or she's like, today they made me be the referee in kickball, Mom, and they don't even have referees in kickball. Like she's like telling me this, and I always just respond back. I obviously validate and I listen, but I always say, but they haven't seen you shine on a stage yet, have they? You know what I mean? Like I try to make it silly because she's like, loves to perform and is, loves to, but it is so hard because like for her, it like defines her whole day. Like I was picked last again today, and it is so hard and so heavy. And I have so many times thought I just need to write a course for kids on this. Like,
oh, that's a really great idea. Like something that a kid can understand. This is a little heavy,
Yeah. Especially for preteens and teens.
A boy named Kelly says the schoolyard dynamic follow you in life in many ways. They can sometimes. Like
Oh yeah.
You know, I really do think that is the difference between shame. You know, I've said it multiple times, but I just want to like drill it in that the difference and what makes shame shame is the fact that you keep it with you and you carry it with you and you let that experience be like something you fall on over and over and over again. And I wanted to share, and this was in my book, so anybody plug for my book, The Only Pirate at the Party.
Ooh.
I felt so like pretentious as I said that. This was in my book.
Look
But,
at you.
You know that book I wrote?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
So and honestly, this was more of a damaging experience by far than the America's Got Talent story, which is the one everybody thinks was the most detrimental and the hardest and the most. For some reason, this experience hurt so bad, and to this day makes me self-conscious. I was performing. I got asked to play with Andrea Bocelli.
Oh yeah.
And I was supposed to be a solo violinist performing with the Royal Philharmonic, backing up, and they were backing up Andrea Bocelli, and I was going to play on some of the songs with him as the solo violinist. I was so honored and so excited, like, Andrea Bocelli is one of the, you know, he's the biggest opera star in the world, and it was at the O2 Arena in London, and I practiced so hard. I also was very clear with them that I am not a classical violinist anymore. Like, I play my, like, I don't pretend to be a classical virtuoso. I'm not. I do my own thing. And they were like, no, 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 we're so excited to have you. We love the way you play. And I was like, okay. So I came, and anyways, long story short, Andrea Bocelli didn't say one word to me. After he heard me practice and warm up with the orchestra, he literally turned his back to me, and he did the same thing on stage. He bowed, grabbing the conductor's hand, the other soloist's hand, and like turned their backs to me and bowed. And I just felt so humiliated in that moment, like as an audience, the audience of thousands of people, and they turned their backs to me, and the orchestra would laugh at, like when I'd walk on stage, I'd see them like whisper and laugh at me, and I literally, like, it was humiliating, and I had to do it 3 nights in a row. And it was to this day, I actually anytime I have to do anything with classical musicians, I get so scared. And the other day I filmed a music video, and there was a couple other string players there that were all classical musicians that were, you know, going to be the backing orchestra in this video. I was so nervous to play in front of them. Like, you know, I just thought to myself, they're probably judging me. They probably are going to just hear me and think I suck. And, you know, they're like, why should I assume that, you know? And I've decided to carry that experience with me. It turned from a humiliating experience into, I'm not good enough. I will never be good enough at the violin. I have to hide behind all this production and all this stuff if I ever want to be able to do what I do. And in my raw self, I am not enough as a violinist. And that's something that has stuck with me, and I constantly try to combat. And of course, the musicians that were on my music videos that were so kind, and they walked in and they were like, we're so excited to meet you. And they were so sweet. And I was like, why have I wasted so much energy worrying about this and being scared? And like, you know, we waste so much energy when we allow shame or embarrassment to become shame and live with us and follow us, where it's like, I'm sure a lot of people are shocked to hear that I'm very, very self-conscious about my playing, but I am. And a lot of it stems from that experience that I allowed to stay with me. But
So I hated that part in your book. It was so sad.
so I know, I hated writing it. I was like, do I put this into a book?
You're being so vulnerable to share that. I love
Yeah.
that. Like, I think it's so awesome of you to be open about that and share it, because
And everything is not like bells and whistles because you are where you're at either. Like, you have these experiences just like everyone else, you know?
Right. There is, I think, a huge misconception that people who have, you know, whether it's like tons of followers or the popular girls at high school or guys, like, or celebrity culture, like there's like such a misconception that they've got it all figured out, these people that we look up to, or, you know, that they've got it perfect. They understand themselves. They're just, that's like, no, everybody has insecurities. Everybody faces their own battles. Everybody is just trying to be happy at the end of the day.
Well, someone earlier said that they went to their 20-year reunion, and you know, they saw the bullies and they were decent people, you know, and they saw the popular people and the, you know, not so popular, and they're all just living lives, you know, like everyone is just human. And figuring things out. And I don't know, everybody's kind of saying they want to punch him in the face, Andrea Bocelli.
It's okay. We don't have to punch him in the
but-
face.
I know, but he obviously has his own issues too, like that we're manifesting. Like,
Right.
he just thought he was too good. Or whatever it was. I can't speak
Well, it's
for
like-
him, but
Oftentimes the things that we're the most fear that people are judging us for are the very things that we judge the most in other people.
You know,
That's
yes, I loved that part of the book. And to be honest, Andrea Bocelli has gotten a lot of critique from the classical community as well for the way he apparently sings opera. Not sure why, but I learned that later. Like I saw that in an article or something, and I was like, interesting that, you know, like you said, the very thing that I felt like he was shaming me for, or that the orchestra, the Royal Philharmonic was shaming me for, probably just stemmed from their own exact fear of
Yeah.
that area.
A great way to identify your shame triggers is find the places you judge other people the harshest in.
Oh, Janny, that is such a good point. Oh, Janny! I liked your little victory dance. No, that's such a
That
good
was me
point.
playing the drums.
Yeah. Well, why the drums? Is that like your victory instrument?
I don't know. It just seemed natural. It came out.
It just happened.
mine is a
What's your victory instrument?
You couldn't tell?
Oh, the keys.
Yeah, the keyboard.
Yeah, I was gonna take the keyboard,
Trombone.
but I'll
Yeah.
I'll stick with the violin, I guess.
You don't have a choice, sorry.
Oh my gosh. I'll do the recorder next week. Oh, okay.
That's amazing.
Okay.
Dang it, I don't know where it is in my notes, but there's more I wanted to say about what you just said, but maybe we'll revisit it a little bit later if I can't
We gotta
find
talk
it.
about guilt fast. We didn't talk
Oh,
about
I'm
guilt.
sorry, we skipped right up. Janny's like, I prepared, so okay,
You
please.
skipped
Hello.
right over me. Not that I don't speak enough in this thing.
We love it, Janny. Okay. Oh, someone says no saxophone victory, so everybody right now, that's Toeman 89. Okay.
Oh, she's doing the
what's
sexy violin
No, that's a saxophone.
or sexy saxophone.
Okay, sorry. By the way, did everybody
Oh,
love how
funny.
Eric Jackson played the saxophone in the Christmas special? If you missed
Yes.
the Christmas special, that's one of my favorite things. He's playing
You're so funny.
so good. Bring back your flute, Lindsay. And I'll spare you all. My flute experience. Onga Yuki. Janny, please talk about
Okay.
the difference between guilt and shame.
Okay, so this is the one that I'm like the most passionate about, and you'll see I actually correct people a lot when they say this, which is obnoxious and annoying, and I need to stop doing that. But so guilt and shame, they're different. So guilt is I did something bad, and it allows us to examine our behavior, and then because of that, we are focused on changing our behavior to become a better person. It's a motivation factor to improve ourselves. Versus, so guilt is I did something bad. It focuses on the behavior. Guilt is motivating. When we feel guilty, we feel that we did something wrong that we should correct in the future. Shame versus guilt. So shame is when you think I am bad or I'm a bad person for having that thought. Again, guilt is I did something bad or that is a bad thought. So a great example of this would be, think about a teacher standing up in class and says, who is I can't imagine a teacher saying this, so this is a bad example, but who is the dummy that didn't write their name on this piece of paper? Okay, right? Who is it? And again, a kid who feels shame would not say anything and would go home and fester. I'm so dumb. I can't believe I didn't write my name on that piece of paper. I'm a horrible person. And he doesn't tell anybody. It festers inside of him. Versus somebody that might be feeling, and again, this is a bad example because this could be looked at as humiliation, but would then say, oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot to write my name on a piece of paper. I'll do better next time. Right? Like, so again, separating the behavior versus the innate, I'm bad. So the difference between shame and guilt, Guilt is a motivation factor that allows us to evaluate our behavior and to improve to become better people, whereas shame actually does the opposite because it festers inside of us, and then we actually it's not beneficial to us. We don't strive to change. So a lot of people will say, oh, let's shame that criminal for his behavior. It actually, there's no scientific proof that shaming anybody actually changes behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, someone earlier brought up like what asked us, like, what do you think the role or whatever, what society uses shame for in teaching children, like, and how we, you know, like how often do we do that as parents or as teachers and stuff, and where I think we're teaching them, oh, you'll learn not to do this again, but that's like the opposite of what you should be doing. It's hard. It's easy to like fall into that trap especially if you're emotionally charged. But
one of the most painful things about learning about shame is recognizing the ways that you shame other people.
Yes.
That was one of the most painful things for me. It was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I've done that. Like,
yeah.
And so it is a mourning process. So as you like are starting to be self-aware of this, like just be kind to yourself and say, but I'm going to do better. Like I'm going to work on it, because we all do it.
Yeah, that is that's so true. Like when you start to realize that you're shaming someone or that you've said a comment that shamed someone and you could have, that is the worst. That is the worst feeling. I also want to just say Prism Sterling, I said, guilt is looking back on the past. Shame is when it's lingering in the present. And a lot of people were saying like, whoa, that blew a lot of people's minds, including mine. So I liked that. But yes, thank you everybody for like bringing up such good points about all those topics. And I want to skip to this section that I had for later, but we are hard on ourselves because we are hard on others because we are hard on herself. And I had written the question, and I think we've already talked about, but if anyone has any more thoughts on it, how does judgment of others and criticizing others relate to shame? So I know we kind of already talked about, but if anyone has any more thoughts on that. And I just had written down a couple things. Okay, the solution, as she talked about this, the solution is never to pull others down. You know, because if you do just pull others down, like nobody's lifted up, you know, and that's kind of the gut reaction of shame. That's why we shame other people for the very things we feel shame in ourselves for, is because you just, you know, it makes you feel better if, you know, someone else is down there with you, or your flaws aren't as big if somebody else has them too. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool point. And then also, oh dang, I lost my train of thought.
Seriously, what benefit has anyone ever experienced in pulling someone else down?
Yeah.
Ever. Like I can't think of a single time where pulling someone else down has benefited anybody in a positive way. Ever.
Right.
I can't think of any.
It just makes you feel worse.
Horrible.
And I
think you just make them feel horrible.
Yeah. Right, you're just making somebody else have shame triggers now too, and also that's not the kind of person that anyone wants to be around. Like that's not going to make you have friends. It's not going to make me, you know, have people that want to collaborate with me if I'm the type of person that shames. Like it just makes everybody feel worse, and you know, ruins opportunities for you in situations. And going back to shame versus guilt, you know, like you guys said, shame. It's never been proven that it actually helps people improve behavior. A lot of times it actually does the opposite, because if you feel like something means I am a bad person, a lot of times rather than adjusting your behavior, because you can't adjust bad behavior if you are bad, like you're the problem, not the behavior. And so it actually makes people adjust their values to fit a value that I'm okay in. Like it's okay, you know, that I'm this way because I've adjusted my values and the things that I think are actually what make people good, so that I'm still, like, everybody wants to be a good person. And so shame actually makes us adjust our values more than behavior, which is not good. So I thought that was really interesting. Okay, do we want to talk now about how men and women experience shame differently? Oh wait, first, before we go into that, I just really want to talk about on page 81. It says, can we connect and show empathy for someone who is going through something we have never experienced?
Yes.
I like that.
I
Totally
love this.
can.
Yeah, I thought this was so nice. And it's in the middle of page 81, but if anyone wants to like share why, how can we connect and have, because I mean, part of being vulnerable and having these connections is sometimes you have to be the person on the other side of the reaching out. You have to be the one that makes someone feel safe to reach out to. So, okay, how can we connect if we've never experienced what someone is going through?
Well, the key is you will never completely, even if you've been through the exact same experience as someone else, like let's say like a death of a child, or someone has broken up with you, or whatever. It, regardless if the experience might on paper be the same, you're two totally different people with two totally different experiences. So even if you've been through the exact same experience, doesn't mean that you really know how they feel or where they're at. But how you connect with somebody and feel empathy with them is you connect with the emotion.
Yeah.
And so, for example, like listening to that story of Lindsey talk about her experience with the classical music, I can tap into what it feels like to feel sad or to feel disappointment or whatever in my own experience to connect with Lindsey and her experience. And I mean, just even this, I think I shared with you guys my experience. Do you want me to talk about, should I share that story super quick? The one about the story of the mom?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
So like, it's really easy. So it's easy for us when we see people in very vulnerable situations to shut off, because it like, so an example of this was, so I read an article this week or last week about a woman who died or got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. She had 7 children under the age of 12, and within 3 weeks she passed away. So within that time frame, she was only able to see her children 4 times due to COVID. So when I initially started reading that story, like instantly I just wanted to shut it off, right? Like I didn't want to be in that space because I would have to tap into that emotion. I've never experienced anything like that family has gone through. So in order for me to connect with them, I would have to tap into a deep emotion that I've experienced of sorrow and sadness and all of those things, and make it real that is a potential something that you could experience. I had to tap into that emotion. I didn't want to do that. So I just like wanted to shut it off. But because of this course, and I was thinking about this course, I was like, no, I'm going to sit with her. Like, obviously I was going to tap into that emotion. And it was like, I felt I can't even express the sorrow. And of course, my sorrow that I experienced with that family was nothing like, nothing like the sorrow that family was experiencing right now. But because I was able to sit in that space with them and be vulnerable enough to sit in that space with them and try to connect to that emotion, that family has been on my mind nonstop. And then that has caused me to want to pray for them and to think about them and to try to connect and reach out through prayer, for this family. And so we don't have to have gone through the exact same thing as other people have been through. But if we're willing to be vulnerable and to connect to our own emotion on the emotion that they're feeling, then we can provide that connection and safe place for them and be there for them in whatever shape or form that may be, whether that's simply just praying for them or sitting with them, listening to their story, or being a part of their story, whatever that may be.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And I think that's a good lead into like how men and women experience shame differently. And we're kind of running short on time, I think. So maybe we'll just kind of run through this. But basically it said that women experience shame as a web or a layering of conflict. And so it's like a web effect. And it's because we have competing expectations and messages. And Janny, you put an example in the doc that I really liked. But so I'll just read that. The appearance, so this is like a way that a web works for women experiencing shame. The appearance and body image category is a good example of such a web. It's one of the biggest ways that women feel shame. For example, on the other hand, society says women need to be thin, young, sexual, on demand, and so forth. At the same time, we hear conflicting messages that there's nothing better for a woman than to be self-confident and to love yourself for who you are. So women face this web largely unattainable competing expectations that you're supposed to look this way, you need to be this in order to like succeed and achieve. Like, and I think we all feel that, but then you get all this stuff of like, but you should love your body, you should love yourself for who you are, like everything, you know, everyone is beautiful, but you know, we're given these very conflicting messages that create a lot of confusion and a lot of shame. And just some of the other ones that she mentioned was let's see, don't make people feel uncomfortable, but be honest. Don't get too emotional, but don't be too detached either. Too emotional and you're hysterical, too detached and you're cold-hearted. You know, so anyways, it's also they say like they want people, we should be natural and effortless in all that we do, in our beauty and our demeanor, but yet like you're supposed to be flawless, but you're supposed to be natural anyway. So there's just so many conflicting things that I was like, oh my gosh, I never really thought how that is how we feel shame. It's the conflict. And
it's the same for men.
Yep.
Yeah, so does someone want to talk about the box, the way that men feel shame? She talked about like women feel it like a web and men feel it like a box. So we kind of are like, I'm being pulled in different directions, but men feel like they're kind of restricted into this box of like, you have to be masculine, you have to be strong, you shouldn't be emotional, you shouldn't, like, it's almost like a list of what you have to be and what you shouldn't be. And it's a pretty narrow box. So they're maybe not be quite as conflicted as the women's messaging. Oh, here we go. Janny's got the box. Yeah. And that is what causes men to have like an extreme amount of shame that a lot of times like they don't feel like they can talk about.
Out of it.
Yeah, because they're in the box.
Then you're will be disconnected, yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone have
the box has on page 93 it says the box has rules that tell men what they should and shouldn't do and who they're allowed to be. Oh, sorry. Yeah. But for men, every rule comes back to the same mandate. Don't be weak. Like, don't be weak. Don't be a pussy is another one. Like, they constantly tell them, hear these things over and over again.
But yet they're like, but we want you to be honest and show emotion. But we don't want you to show too much emotion. We want you to be strong and on your white horse.
So I guess that is kind of a web as well. It's like a very specific box. But also, you know, it's like we want them outside of the box, but we don't. But men say that, well, you don't really want us outside of the box. You want us in the box. Right.
And it's all those competing, what you should be, how you should be, like all those competing. It's the same three things. They're just.
You're shoulding on yourself.
Yeah. Shoulding is a terrible word.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Don't should on yourself. I like that.
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys sorry, go on.
Yeah. No, this person said in rule number 1, you should not cry. Like that is such a thing that men hear all the time. Don't cry, don't cry. And I said it to I've said it, not, you know.
Yeah, I've said it to my
kid. Stop crying. And it's like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When I read this part about men, I felt a lot of shame about how I've treated my husband or my, you know, any man, how I expected them to not. I don't know, you know, I just feel like, oh crap, I did do a lot of this stuff.
It's eye-opening. It's good to read because it helps you understand them better and what their triggers are.
And a lot of vulnerability men feel around intimacy, which I don't know, there's so many stereotypes out there that like, I literally was like, whoa, it's crazy to think that there's so many parallels, you know, between what we feel as women. It's just translated differently. And so if you're feeling something, you know, some like the 12 shame, what do they call them? Triggers. Yeah. Like you just have to realize that, yes, someone similar like you probably feels them too, but also someone very different than you, like, you know, feels them.
Right. Well, I thought it was interesting, that story where they got in that heated conversation in the therapy session where the woman was like you know, basically saying they were talking about sex and like just saying how difficult it was. Like, you know, like they're so concerned about what you look like, and this man was like, no, we don't think that way. We just want to make sure that like you want to be with us. And she was like, what about this guy that all he did was criticize my body? And the guy's response, well, he was an a-hole. It's not because he was a man, he was an a-hole man, you know, like, and so it was like, I think that was, again, so eye-opening, because there was such a common stereotype that was putting men and women in the web, in these boxes or in these webs. And it's like, again, separating the person from the behavior. And we so often put them and categorize behavior with the stereotype of the person or with people. And I think that's something that we all need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
And I think for some reason it's more socially acceptable for women to be vulnerable. And I guess I just think if there are men listening, that you have that, you are allowed to be that just as much as everyone else is. And you should
to be that, to have connection.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of daring greatly.
Courage.
And it's going to help you be more successful. Like they talked about in work life, like it'll help you relate better to people and have connection and be more successful, which is what you want. But it's just, you know, it's hard to not feel like weak.
Yeah. And if somebody doesn't respond positively to your vulnerability,
just kidding.
yeah. Or if no, you're but if somebody doesn't respond, you know, if you're trying to be vulnerable and they don't respond correctly, you know, we're learning to get over stereotypes too. So be gentle with them, but also don't stop trying. Don't take that one chance and be like, well, I'm never doing that again because it didn't work.
Yes. The key is empathy for everybody. The antidote to shame is empathy. I think next week that's what the chapter is on.
Oh, I'm excited.
I can't remember. Maybe it's not, but I know that's the key is empathy. That's the answer to shame.
Yeah, I love that. I can't wait to read about that. Well, thanks for sharing all of that. Speaking of empathy, do you guys feel that self-love is a prerequisite to loving others?
Yep.
It is. It doesn't mean I want it to be.
Don't you hate hearing that?
Yep.
Like, it's painful to hear because you're like, well, I know I love other people, even sometimes when I am beating myself up. Like, but why? Like, because I feel like we all think that, but why is it actually a prerequisite to loving others that you have to really love yourself? Why?
This is such a hard one. I don't even have the answer. Like, I don't have the answer to a lot of things, but this is one that I just think is so hard. It's so hard.
It's so hard. And Brene says, like, she wanted to believe that this wasn't true, but she says, but in practicing self-love this is on page 106. She says, but in practicing self-love over the past couple of years, I can say that it is immeasurably deep in my relationships with the people I love. It's given me the courage to show up and be vulnerable in new ways. And that's what love is all about. And so it doesn't mean that you don't care for people. I kind of took that as, it doesn't mean you can't still love people, but you can't show up for them. You can't be vulnerable. You can't be that person that someone is able to be vulnerable with and safe with, and, you know, be there for people in a real way, empathetically, like Janny was talking about. Like, if you aren't okay with yourself, like, you can still love them, because I've heard so many people be like, well, I love my family and I love my kids, like, even when but can you show up for them in the way you want to? Or, you know, I'm sure you can, but as deeply, like she says, if you don't love yourself. Anyways, I thought that was...
Well, you're caught up in your own difficulties, insecurities. So it prevents you from reaching out because you're so stuck in your own head in a lot of ways that it prevents you from seeing other people. But one thing, because this is like so hard for me, and I like the idea that I'm not serving and loving people adequately is a huge shame trigger for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a shame.
And so reading this is like, I'm really like, no shame. Like, I just, you know, it really is hard for me. But one thing that I have realized is that it's there's a learning curve. There's a spectrum. You aren't there or not there. Like, I am trying harder to clear my mind and my insecurities so that I can have a greater capacity to love the people around me. It's not that I, you can or can't. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And
Totally.
and that has helped me, because it is like really hard for me to think that I'm not, but I am not loving my spouse as much as I can. I'm like, well, that's like my number one goal, so I got to do better. But just knowing that I can continue to develop that and work on it, rather than it being like a have or have not.
Yes, thank you. That is so good that it's a spectrum. And I like that Anavar07 says, how can you love if you don't understand and practice love? Like, you know, and you think about it, you're around yourself more than anybody, obviously you are yourself. And so you get to like practice self-love on, you know, or practice love by self-love. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So thank you for the comments. Thank you. And then the very last section is about becoming real. And we talked a little bit last week about the Velveteen Rabbit, which I just love that story. So maybe we won't go into that again. But, you know, she just kind of goes into how there's all these different expectations that, you know, society has told us this is how men are supposed to be, this is how women are supposed to be, this is how successful people are, this is how family people, like all these lists of like what we are and aren't supposed to be in any given like life situation. And she says, if we are going to find our way out of shame and back to each other, vulnerability is the path and courage is the light. To set down those lists of what we're supposed to be is very brave. To love ourselves and support each other in the process of becoming real is perhaps the greatest single act of daring greatly. So I'm going to read that last part again. To love ourselves and support each other in the process of becoming real is perhaps the greatest single act of daring greatly. And if anything, I've been thinking so much about like, just like, I want to be the kind of person that like loves with my whole heart. Like I want to be the kind of person that makes people feel amazing about themselves when they're in my presence. Like that's what I want to be so badly. And I do waste way too much energy worrying about myself, worrying if I'm enough, worrying if what I wore is okay. Like how stupid to waste all this energy on like just worrying about me when like you said, Caitlin, your ultimate goal is to like love your husband. Like why do we waste all this energy on ourselves? So I love that she just makes it like, you know, if we're going to find our way back to each other, vulnerability is the way and courage is the light, you know?
That's so good.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on that?
Just be kind to yourselves.
Be kind to yourselves, really, because that's the gateway to being kind to other people. And like, you know, when we're harsh with ourselves, I feel like I'm getting such a guilt trip over that. Guilt, not shame, but guilt over the fact of like, I don't want to be harsh on other people. I want to be kind. And that's what makes the world a better place.
I can't wait till we talk about empathy, because I just think it is the one tool that can change the world.
Yes.
Yeah. We can be that for other people. Yeah. Janny, do you want to give us a mantra to try and use this week?
Oh,
that
heaven bless. Well, I think one thing that everyone can like focus on.
Oh, heaven bless.
I think one thing that I think it'd be really cool for everyone this week, like the challenge is to start identifying your shame triggers. Like, where do you experience it? And that can be really hard. So your next challenge is to find somebody that is safe that you can share it with. And yeah, that's somebody that you can, and if maybe that's just, you know, sending an email into, you know, to this group or whatever. Yeah, start identifying those, and it can be hard, but at the same time, it will allow you freedom and the ability to practice empathy for yourself, which will ultimately allow you to do it for others.
Thank you, Janny. And if you guys do want to use the email as a safe place to share something, just put at the top if you don't want us to share it. You know, just be like, I'd rather not anyone hear this. I just wanted to write it, you know? That's great too. Like it doesn't have to be blasted. It can be super, like, I think that's a great idea, Janny. Like, try to recognize triggers, try to recognize what is it, and then try to talk about it with someone and bring it to life. Speaking of emails, one last thing I liked that Nick wrote in, says he took the quote from Brené's book and said, we are so begging for public acceptance that we are willing to hide our raw talents or even wear a mask because we are so afraid of the pain from social rejection. And then Nick says, that's why the author points out that the only solution to this situation is to develop shame resilience. And it's about finding the middle path, kind of like what Caitlin was saying, an option that allows us to stay engaged and find the emotional courage that we need to respond in a way that aligns with our values, not everybody else's, our values. So anyways, that was
everyone go read the story about the artist in here, in that chapter, where it talks about the man who was shamed about loving art as a kid. And Brene Brown says, I still mourn over the fact that the world probably lost a really talented artist because
never get to see it. Yeah. Is it sterlingsbookclub@gmail.com?
Yes, thank you, Caitlin. Yes,
Okay.
the
I'm
email
gonna put it in the chat.
Thanks, Caitlin. There we go, sterlingsbookclub@gmail.com. You can send us thoughts. You can also, I think it's really cool, we have a book section on the Discord. So if you guys want to go and like discuss and support each other there, that would be a really cool place where, you know, and you believe me, if I see anyone saying anything not cool, you will be kicked off my Discord. If you're being mean and shaming people, you're not allowed. Only nice things in that chat.
Practice skills we're talking about.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to use this as a safe place, but also I do encourage you, if you have like someone that you can talk to at home, you know, that would be amazing. You know, a friend, a family member. And if you want to be a part of the Discord, there's all kinds of categories on it. You can type in !Discord in the chat and it'll send a link so that you can join the Discord. Also, you guys, please subscribe, please follow. We do this every Thursday at 5:00 Pacific time. So next week, we're going to be reading chapter 4 about empathy. So if you read or not, just come.
Hopefully. I can't remember for sure if that's I'm hoping.
Vulnerability Armory.
Vulnerability Armory.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, probably.
So we will be talking about that. So thank you.
Sorry, we keep getting longer and longer.
I know.
Oh my gosh, it's 7. But yeah, that was great. I just appreciate all of you guys. I appreciate all you ladies for being here and discussing. This would be so uninteresting if I just was like, well, what should I talk about? Like, I love the discussion and I love all your comments, your questions. And anyways, please subscribe, please follow. And if you subscribe, you get the little emojis, which is fun, the little emoticons that are just special little Lindsey Stirling ones. And you also get to be a part of the subs only chat, which and you can talk with me there. I go in there and answer questions all the time. So anyways, also I want to shout out any of our new subscribers. We have Young BD22447 who just subscribed with Prime. Thank you so much. Also Jed QC who subscribed with Prime. Francis Sonfoto cheered 100 bits. Thank you very much. And Nano Nonsense gifted 1 month, 1 tier to PTA Sterlingite. So thank you guys so much. Jaws Photo 07 official subscribed for 1 month. Red Jedi cheered 100 bits. This is, wow, a lot of you guys did awesome stuff. And Analog Kid 75 gave out 1 tier subscription. So,
Yay! This is my dog Stig. He's Luna's long lost lover.
Honestly, they are so similar. For sure.
He's just a little bit bigger than she is.
Oh, she's in
but
her
man.
little bed.
Oh my gosh.
Luna,
we miss you.
She's like really
Stig,
concerned.
look how good she looks in there.
Ooh.
He's like, what the heck?
Like, put it down. Yeah, our dogs are so similar. Like Luna and Stig, they both love to be like just squeezed into little small spaces and burrowed. And I remember when I first met Stig, it was before I had Luna, and I was just like, I'm obsessed with your dog. Like, I love Stig.
I need to find a Stig.
And then I did. I was like, I need to find a Stig, and I did. Named Luna, who's now asleep in my lap in her little fluffy.
I love it.
Love it, love it. Well, okay.
Right.
We will
I gotta go, guys.
Okay, bye, Jenny.
Bye.
Bye. All right, I think I'll say goodbye to the chat here too. So, again, thanks for coming. We'll be here next week, and until then, sign out. I'm also gonna do a practicing one soon. Hopefully Saturday. But anyways, I'll let you guys know on my Instagram. Honestly, that is a vulnerability experience for me to do that. So it's like really good for me to be raw like that. So I was like, you know what? For the book club, I'm gonna
Yes.
do another practicing live stream, as well as next week I'll be gaming with my crew again. So I'm really enjoying this Twitch stuff. So keep joining. Oh, we had another subscription. It's Baby Wise gave out 5 tier 1 community sub gifts. Thank you so much. It's Baby Wise. You're the best. All right. Well, with that, have a wonderful week. Love you, ladies. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Okay.